On the island of Newfoundland, upon the southwest coast, lies the little town of Burgeo, to whom I'll sing this toast. There are so many highlands that lie just off her shore, and when the cold north wind blows, you can hear the billows roar. The people from the village make their living from the sea. They like their independence. It shows that they are free. Some fish in their small boats in the wind, the rain and sleet, while others make their living on the offshore trawler fleet. They've known their share of tragedies down through the years, and when the memories overcome, they show their grief with tears. For they have lost some loved ones to the furies of the seas, for heartaches and heartbreaks are locked in memories. This village has got beauty carved on its rugged shore. 7 miles of pure white sand. Who could ask for more? The mountains and the valleys where the rivers run so fast, and the salmon rise to the sportsman's fly as he makes another cast. Tell the people of this village love their native home, for anyone who goes away most surely will return. Just like that lifelong mystery, the answer you won't know. What makes this rugged village burn so deeply in your soul? What makes this rugged village burn so deeply in your soul?
Good evening, and welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight in our stories we have Burgeo Hometown Celebrations, a new project at the arena, Amy House, our MHA. Please stay tuned for these stories after this.
Don't you
Well,
even
me
think
and
about
my
that!
lady had our first big fight, so
Jack!
I drove around till I saw the neon lights on a corner bar. Not a soul around but the old barkeep.
What can I get for you, man?
Better life than the one I got.
He walked up, said, "What lit
Like that
me?"
one.
I said, "The good stuff."
Hey, wasn't always a perfect picture, but there was some perfect parts.
'Cause it's the first long kiss on a second date. Dropping the ring in the spaghetti plate. 'Cause your hands are shaking so much. And it's the way that she looks with her rice in her hair. Eating bird suppers the whole first year. And asking for seconds to keep her from tearing up. Yeah, man, that's the good stuff.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
The Burgeo Hometown Celebrations were held on July the 18th and 19th at the arena. This event was hosted by the Burgeo Heritage and Museum Committee, along with the Rec Commission, Town of Burgeo, and other sponsors. At the arena, there were tables set up by individuals or groups with items to sell. A large clothesline was strung across the arena that displayed homemade quilts. There was entertainment at the arena during the afternoon with Terry Riley and a music corner with Travis Dunford and other guests. That night, a talent spotlight was held featuring some of Burgio's local talent. This will be shown at a later date. Other entertainment was held during the night, and activities continued on Saturday. While I was at the arena, I had a look at the new addition that was being added to the arena. On the upper level of the arena, a place was being constructed which consisted of a games multi-purpose room and an office. This was done through a grant that the Rec Commission had applied for, and all constructions is being done by volunteers. On Friday night at the parish hall, Amy House put off a play called Scratch and Pull. In this play, which was a comedy, Miss House became many characters and showed the hazards of becoming addicted to this type of gambling. After her show, I had a chance to chat with Mrs. House. I'm with Amy House now. She's just done a performance called Scratch and Pull.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, here at the parish hall. Good evening, Amy.
Good evening, Maxine. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So what made you go into this kind of business?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was in high school many lifetimes ago, I did a play in high school, and that pretty much was the beginning of my interest in theater, because it was grade 11, which was my last year of school at that time, and got involved in a play and just found a focus that really interested me. And you know, I mean, I guess I did all right in school, but when I got involved in theater, it all meant something for me, you know? So after I finished school, I really didn't know how to go about having an acting career, so I went into business, and, you know, I was working in a bank and stuff for a while, but I got involved in community theater. And from there it grew, you know, the Stigmo Festival started, and we, you know, a bunch of us got together and did that, and then ended up doing theater in the schools, and it kind of evolved, more so than my pushing it. It just kind of evolved for me. So something that was meant to be, I guess, I don't know.
So you mentioned the Stephenville festivals. Are you from Stephenville?
I am, yes, yeah. I live in St. John's now, and my folks are from the Northern Peninsula. So I got little bits and pieces of lots of characters from all over the province, because I live in St. John's. I have a history on the west coast. Of course, that's where my French characters come from, the Port-au-Court Peninsula. And Port Saunders, Daniels Harbour, that area is where my folks are from. And when I was growing up, I used to spend a lot of my summers in Port Saunders, and I love the outports of Newfoundland. This is my first time in Burgeo. It's quite beautiful.
Oh, really?
I can't believe it. I've been to a lot of nooks and crannies in Newfoundland and Labrador, but coming down here today, I realize I haven't been to Burgeo. So
too bad it'd be foggy.
well, that's all right. It's still nice, and the people who came to see my show were very warm, and I really appreciate that. So it was nice. It was an intimate audience, and playing in these wooden halls are always nice too, because the sound is so good. You know, like last night I played in Port Basque to a big crowd in the Port Club, but so I had to use a microphone. I have a lapel mic. But coming here tonight, it's just much more intimate and effortless to be able to communicate with the audience like that, you know.
Okay. So how often do you do your shows?
Well, I'm the artistic animateur, which is kind of an artistic director of the Resource Center for the Arts in St. John's. So that's kind of like about 8 or 9 months of the year I'm doing that. In between, I try and steal a bit of time here and there to do some writing. So this summer I am touring the province. I'm doing about 10 or 12 dates across the province with this show. Hopefully next summer I'll do some dates on the mainland and that. And I also, in St. John's, I do a lot of convention work. So if there's a convention or conference, people hire me to come and do after dinner comedy, or, you know, things like special events kind of thing, you know, yeah.
So is this the name of the show at all places, or do you have different ones?
Well, this show is called Scratch and Pull, and you know, as you see, it's about the Nevada tickets and a little mini mart, right? But I do have other characters that I do. A lot of my convention work, I do this character, Marguerite McGillicuddy, and so that's a different kind of a show. It's almost like stand-up comedy, but it's in a character with a costume and stuff. So I just feel a little bit more safe hiding behind a costume. And I also have other characters that I do. I have a little old lady who sits in a rocking chair talking to Mercedes in the garden. And you know, some people have seen her on TV. I did that for the Halifax Comedy Fest one time, and it seems to have been broadcast all over the place, so people kind of know her. So there are different characters that I can do. And of course, my fish plant worker that I do, you know, depending on what the event is. You know, so, yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Well, I'm flattered that you came to see the show, and I'm really glad to be here in Burgeo, and it's my pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, very good. I hope you come back again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Our MHA Calvin Parsons came by the studio and gave us an update on some of the things that have been happening in our town. Tonight in our studios, we have our MHA, Mr. Calvin Parsons. Good evening, sir.
Good to be here. How are you?
I'm not too bad. You?
Good.
So what brings you to town this week?
Well, I came down, I had hoped to make it this year again for the Sand and Sea. I don't think I've missed any since 1999 when I first got elected. But anyway, this year I had a conference outside the province that I have to attend, so I wanted to take in a few days of the celebrations. So I came down a few days ahead of time, and sure enough, you have your hometown celebrations on, so I guess you have 8 or 10 days of festivities this year, so you're going to have quite a party here in Burgeo.
Yes, it is going to be quite a party. So while you're here now, you want to talk a little bit about some of the issues, like for instance at Route 480 about the paving that's going on?
Yes, in fact, as I drove down today, they're just doing the paving today. When I was down the last time, they were stripping up the old asphalt and getting it prepared, and I noticed today when I came down, the paving machine is operative. I think it's only about 6 kilometers that they're actually paving this year. But as I said in an earlier interview, the goal was to get them started, because they didn't want to start, because it's a fairly big project if they get started on the whole 144 kilometers.
Yes.
So we managed to convince them to start on that worst section anyway, up towards the TCH, and I think now the plan is on each year to pick the worst spots and keep them up to date now as we go forward. So it's good to see. A lot of people are using that road.
Yes.
It's been since, what, 1988 now, so the road has been in existence, fully paved anyway, since about 1988, or shortly after 88, because I believe the monies for that road came from the old closure of the Newfoundland Railway. It was part of the railway monies, and that closed down in 88, so it would have been 89 or 90 that the road actually got paved and so on, 91 sort of thing.
Oh, very good. And last week there was a news announcement about funding for the Eco Ice System at the arena.
Yes, quite pleased to see that. The stadium, over the last number of years, we've managed to put a roof on the old outdoor rink.
Yes.
And of course there were no freezing facilities, so you're very limited and you're subject to whatever Mother Nature permits when it comes to skating facilities and playing hockey and so on. And it's kind of tough to invite in teams. If you want to have a competition for the kids, or if the adults want to host a recreation tournament, it's kind of tough to do when you can't plan it because you don't know if you're going to have ice or not.
No, exactly.
So that made it tough to use it fully as it should be used. And the other piece was, of course, you had a very limited time period. Normally, your operating season would come after Christmas in January month when the weather turned really cold, and you might have it for a couple of months.
Yes.
And what this system will do is that it'll give you expanded seasons. You'll probably start now sometime around mid-November, towards the latter part of November. The last 2-week period in November, you'll be able to freeze it, so that'll give you November, part of December, January, February, and normally where these places, other places that have this type of system, they generally go till around Easter time.
Oh, okay.
So that'll give you a far more expanded time, which permits not only, of course, for general skating and the general public who want to go, but the organized sports, whether it be minor hockey, senior hockey, broomball, even curling, because a lot of these facilities that have fixed ice, they just put the designs on the ice, and they also have a curling rink made out of it. I know in Port aux Basques, for example, for 20 years before they actually got a curling facility, they used it as a curling rink as well, the ice rink. So you can do many more activities for a much longer period of time, and you can actually plan now. If you want to, if minor hockey, for example, wants to invite in the Bay St. George minor hockey group for a game of hockey, you can do that now.
Okay.
So it's going to be much more usable. The beauty of the thing was it wasn't that expensive in terms of how rinks normally go. I think the system is going to cost about $270,000. And the good thing about it is that I don't believe it's going to cost the citizens of Burgeo one penny. We managed to secure from the provincial government what they call a 90-10 funding program. So of the $270,000, 90% of that will be paid for by the provincial government.
Okay.
The other 10%, that money had been already raised in the past by the Recreation Committee. So I think the money is all in hand. The town had said they would step in if they needed to come up with some of the funds, but because we were lucky enough to get a good funding formula, 90-10, which is normally a 50-50 deal, the town won't have to put in any taxpayers' dollars into it. So it's a great facility at a great cost, and you hardly can say no to something like that because it was so easily obtainable in terms of funding and so on. And I talked to John Grant, who heads up the Recreation Committee, and John tells me that these systems have been checked out, and in terms of operational cost, there should be no problem in terms of what he currently charges for admission fees and so on, and the few dollars that they have, being able to maintain the cost of the system as we go forward.
Oh, that's good.
So it's a good positive story.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Any news on the water treatment plant?
They're indicated the last time that yes, there's been some heavy ongoing discussions and negotiations between town officials and municipal officials. And there's three parties involved, basically. There's the municipality, there's been the provincial government, but also ACOA, the federal funding arm, is heavily involved there as well. My understanding is that virtually all of the ducks have been lined up now, and there should be some positive announcement on that in the very near future. My understanding is there's just a few little details that had to be clarified, and at that time I'm assuming the governments would be in a position then to do their announcements and so on. But my understanding is that it's looking very positive, and we should be hearing something very soon on that.
Okay, very good. And the Ferry Wharf Terminal, what's progress on that?
The terminal building is actually finished. As you're aware, anybody who's been aware, listening to the open line shows over the past number of years, the residents of the coast, particularly Ramia and Grey River and places, were very adamant that it was just unacceptable, the situation that they had, which was non-existent basically. If you came here to wait for the ferry down on the wharf, you were sitting in your vehicle and you were waiting. You had no washroom facilities or anything. So we managed to secure a new terminal building. It's gone to tender. It's been constructed. When I last checked, which was 10 days ago when I was here, I believe they were just getting into the process then. They had a little bit of landscaping to do out round, and they had actually put out a tender, or were going to put out a tender, because they need someone to look after the building, to make sure the building is open during hours when the ferry is going back and forth. And also, I believe that person is going to perform the role of a wharfinger, which would tie the boat on and let the boat go and so on. So my understanding is that that position is being tendered, if it's not already been done. I was told by Mr. McCarthy, the Western Supervisor, that this was 10 days ago, that it was supposed to be in the Western Star and in the Telegram for public tendering. That was about a week ago now.
Oh, okay.
So that should bring that up and running in the very near future. We had hoped to get it running during the summer months and before the summer actually started, so that not only the travelers, the residents, but also visitors could take advantage of it. But unfortunately, when you're into these tendering processes, albeit the building might look like it's completed, until it's substantially complete and the engineers verify that it is complete, the government cannot take ownership of it, because you have insurance issues and so on. So the building has looked completed for some time, but it's not actually complete until we get that engineering piece done. My understanding is that that is done now. They're finalizing the little bit of landscaping, and it should be open very soon. Minister Diane Whalen, in fact, the Minister of Works Transportation, indicated to me that there would be an official opening of the facility, because it involves so many communities, Grey River, Francois, Ramia, Burgeo, and that there would be an official opening, and she would be coming down here to do the opening. So I would think that'll be done sometime now in the summer. In fact, I believe the building will be open and running before we actually do the official opening. But there will be an official opening as well with the minister in attendance.
Oh, okay, very good. Is there any funding this year for job creation projects or anything like that?
There will be. Normally, what they call community enhancement projects. Okay. We don't normally get that money until fall. What happens is the government waits to see who was successful getting employment in other areas, and of course the program is intended to help those who don't get the number of hours that they need to qualify for EI. I'm very pleased to say that over the years, the need for the community enhancement funding in Burgeo has gone down dramatically. Back in 1999, when the NCARP and the TAGS program was ending, like in 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, we used to have a big need here. There was always at least like 50, 60 people who wanted projects. In the last couple of years, because a lot of people here are either employed in Alberta or elsewhere outside the province in the fishing industry in Nova Scotia and picking apples, and they choose to go to work rather than wait for community enhancement program. There's been a very, very reduced need. In fact, I believe last year we had 3 or 4 programs, projects approved for here, and the problem was getting the workers. And there was one, in fact, that we had to cancel because we just couldn't get the workers. I guess people go away, they work, they get their EI, so when they come home, they don't need it anymore. So we've had a couple of cases like that in the last few years. So yes, there will be some additional money in the fall if it's needed, but I'm very pleased to see that the need is decreasing very, very much in this area over the last number of years.
Okay, very good. Anything else you would like to add?
I just take this opportunity to wish all of the organizers of the hometown celebrations and the Come Home Year celebrations and the Stand and See celebrations. I understand there's a whole bunch of different committees involved. I'd like to congratulate everybody and their committees for all the hard work. I see there's lots of flyers around town. Everybody seems to have their homes decorated and their flags flying. I'd like to welcome all of those people who live away and are home visiting, welcome them back to Burgeo. I hope that you and your families have an enjoyable stay here. I hope all the residents here, of course, who have their families home, have a great time, a great celebration, and we spend so much time working sometimes and worrying that sometimes we don't take enough time to enjoy the families and enjoy the good things we have. So I'd just like to take this opportunity, Maxine, to wish everybody well, and I hope there's a great celebration. Like I say, party hard, but party safe. And when you all return home, all you visitors have a safe trip on your way back to your homes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much for dropping by.
No problem, anytime.
This concludes our programming for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.